Let's get a round of applause for Noah and for Julie and Quinn and Peter and the team here today. Not bad, right? Also, the Newhouse staff, the people who are running this event, fantastic. Nothing happens without them. Thank you. All right, there we go. Hopefully this will be fun for you guys. Everyone hear me all right? We're good? This will be fun for you guys at the end of the day. So my name is Michael Francello, Director of Innovation at Shutterstock. Most people call me Francello by my last name. So if you find yourself standing next to me at the bar or in a drum circle with me later on tonight, please feel free to refer to me by my last name. It's what I've always gone by. Our presentation today, my presentation, is called Easy, Confident, and Responsible. It's about Shutterstock's approach to generative AI. Also what they used to say about me in high school. Yuck, yuck. A lot of people will say, as per Noah's point, you know us as Shutterstock. We go to you to license an image for a social media ad. We also have videos, we have audio clips, we have the world's largest 3D model library, we have a studios division which does fantastic custom production work. We also have a new AI image generator, which is just another way for our clients to search and source imagery on our platform, things that have never been created before. We call it creativity at the speed of your imagination. A big part of that is confidence, though. So people will come to us and say, why are you getting involved in this? I think the trend has been very clear for a while, and it's been accelerating that we are moving towards a very AI-focused world. We really believe that our approach will and can guide the future of this technology. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about it later. We believe that artists should be compensated for their intellectual property as it relates to generative content, and we do currently pay them for the use of their intellectual property as it relates to generative content. We have an obligation. Our clients need to create more content than ever before. Everything is due yesterday. And they come to us because we understand the intricacies of licensing and providing content for commercial use cases. And a lot of them are coming up with net zero search results. So how do you create something that's only up here? Our AI image generator is the first step in that process. And I think we have an opportunity to lead by example by how we've trained OpenAI's DALL-E 2 model. And that's who our partner is for our image generator and how we compensate artists. It's nice to see some people have been adding that to their FAQ pages over the past couple weeks, that they are going to start compensating artists at some point in the future. As mentioned before, we saw an opportunity a couple years ago when OpenAI came to us and they said, hey, we would like to train DALL-E 2 with high-quality stock photography from your image library. We licensed them approximately 450 million images and the text associated with them to help train that model. So 450 million of the 650 million images that train that are from Shutterstock. Which makes quotes that you may read in Forbes about there's no way to actually license hundreds of millions of photos and know who to credit for them, kind of willfully ignorant. You can license them from somebody like Shutterstock. You can also license videos. You can also license 3D models to train generative models in the same way, kind of like we're doing with NVIDIA, which I'll touch on later. Our AI image generator, this is some of my finest work. I'm big in the fantasy cat game. I'm not a creator or I'm not a designer, so I tend to prompt animals doing funny things. This is getting into the easy part of my presentation. So that actually is supposed to say one-click styles. I noticed it last night. Somebody who actually helps us fully indemnify generative AI images create with our image generator caught it. So Celeste Martin, she has a great eye, and if you ever see this, I'm going to call you out here. I didn't correct it, so I could call her out. Part of the easy part of using our AI image generator is you don't have to be a prompting engineer. You can come in here and enter a simple phrase, a couple keywords, and you can use what's called our intuitive style picker. So what this gives you the ability to do is automatically add a different type of filter to your image. This is an example of what it does. I made a little fantasy witch parrot the other day, and then I added the pencil sketch, psychedelic wood carving. You can read these. This is just what the filter automatically does within our platform. This is, once again, a prompt I ran the other day, and I ran it through a couple different filters, a couple different styles to bring you these images. Once again, right here, this is the tree monster work I was doing. I really like the colorful living one down here. It tends to, looks a little scared, a little freaked out, kind of how I feel about this stuff in general. And this was for an automotive client that said, like, hey, Francello, fantasy cat witch portraits and vampire ghosts and ninjas and all that stuff is great, but I'm trying to sell cars, so what do you got for me? So we can work with our content curation team, our research team. We don't call them prompt engineers. That's their choice. One of my favorites will say prompt engineering is kind of like being a webmaster in the 90s. You just kind of have to do it and say you do it. So we have a curation team that can go out and is currently working with brands, agencies, media companies to create AI-generated images if they're not comfortable getting in the kitchen, right? Prompts are like recipes. You need ingredients. For recipes, the better the ingredients, the better your food tastes. So if somebody isn't comfortable with that, we do offer content curation services. We've also added zoom out and variations features recently. Our tech kind of infers what's beyond the border of any given image. So you're able to zoom out. We also have variations, so to get over the, hey, I have this kind of jumping off point, but I don't exactly want this thing. I kind of want to iterate on that. You can hit the variations button, and it gives you 3 other versions of the image, and you can keep hitting it over and over again. You're never going to be able to create the same thing twice. I think you would if you hit the same prompt 1 trillion times, but it doesn't work like that. This is what zoom out does, and these are variations of the same images right there. Once again, people will come to us and say, hey, I'm trying to sell makeup, or I'm trying to make something photorealistic. The fantasy cat witch or Godzilla eating popcorn in the movie theater isn't really going to cut it for me, so can you help me make something photorealistic? This is an example of what comes by way of one of our content curators, not prompt engineers, working through a prompt, spending some time to get to something usable for the client that was asking for it. Another example here with some pretty flowers. Love the colors on these. The confidence part. So you saw easy. It's very easy to use our AI image generator. Any client of Shutterstock that has access to our platform can use it. You click generate on the left-hand side. The confident part comes from, because of how we've trained this model, right? We've licensed 450 million images to OpenAI DALL-E 2 to train it. We are offering legal protections and indemnifications for commercial use cases you simply can't find anywhere else. We don't indemnify everything. As you know, generative content is created on the fly. We can't control what somebody puts into a generator. But what we can control is how we've trained the model and how we compensate our artists. We can ensure that you do have a right to utilize the underlying technology, to license from it. And we can also protect you from any claim that, let's say, you're violating an intellectual property claim from one of our contributors. Just a couple weeks ago, we unveiled full indemnification for AI-generated images. Celeste Martin, calling her out again, the woman with the great eye who actually read through my presentation, thank you for that. She goes through and reviews these images to provide full indemnification, to say not only do you have a right to license this, you also are clear this does not contain the semblance of a brand, a logo, a public personality, something that you don't have the rights to use or not something we're comfortable indemnifying. And a very well-known search engine, as part of their I/O conference last week, used a Shutterstock AI fully indemnified image as part of their keynote on responsible AI. So that made me feel good. That was nice. This is the responsible part. We actually pay artists for their contributions as it relates to generative AI. We compensate them in 2 ways. We compensate them for the use of their data. So when I say data here, I mean the images and the text associated with them. Our contributors get an upfront payment for the use of that data. Not only have we trained OpenAI's DALL-E 2 model, we have similar deals with Meta. We're training all of their AI tools. Apple, Amazon Web Services. I'm saying these names because these are all very public deals, don't worry. NVIDIA, LG AI Research. We're training all their tools, and we're actually looking at not just text-to-image generation, we're actually looking at the reverse of that, image to text. How do we properly caption images? How do we help people surface them or find them easier in their DAM when they're searching for the right image? How do we help people train their own models with their own data? That starts with captioning. Image to image is another one we're working on with LG as well. But for our AI image generator, as you saw the samples from, we compensate them for the use of their data. We also give them the right to opt out, too, which is super important. Telling somebody you're going to compensate them, but they can't opt out of it, it's kind of like locking them in a room and giving them a cookie. So we do allow our contributors to opt out. And in this, 1 and 1, not even 1 and 2. Cool. That was another one. Celeste, you failed me. So number 2, not number 1, for licensed images, we actually pay a royalty to our contributor fund, which gets divided commensurately according to the amount of data they originally put into the model. So if you put in 20,000 images and text and data, that is what your royalty payment is commensurate to. Fully transparent, the payment for the actual data is much bigger than the royalty payment that goes in. It's kind of like a music streaming model, you might say. Speaking of music streaming or music in general, we just heard some interesting things on stage as part of Colin and Shannon's talk. I don't agree with the analogy that people are using. It's kind of like what happened to the music industry 20 years ago. I'd like to think that we're actually kind of acting like Metallica's record label. Metallica shouldn't have been out there fighting to get paid for the use of their intellectual property. Their label should have been fighting for them. So that's what we do with our artists and with our contributors, and that's how we're encouraging people to stay on our platform, is we actually fight for their rights to be compensated as artists. And over the past 20 years, not just with generative, we've paid out over $1 billion in earnings to our contributors for the use of their content on our platform. What could be next? This is a nice photo. I'd like to say it's a kind of a photorealistic image of myself in the lab. Unlimited generations. Right now, we don't charge anybody to use the system, right? We're a content company. People come to us to license content. You only pay for it when you license it for a commercial use case or for any use case. So what we're looking into is more of kind of like a SaaS, software as a service type model for some of our clients who don't want a daily cap on their generations. Right now it's 150, which gets you 600 images because you get 4 unique images with every generation. So not too bad. Some people want more though. Custom creation and curation, like I talked about before. You're trying to get to something, you don't know how to get to it. Let's have somebody from our curation team go and create it for you. Maybe write you out a prompt, give you a little kind of Mad Libs thing that you can go and exchange. You can substitute the words. Branded workspaces. Hey, I log in and I'm X brand. I want to see my certain hex code color blue and red represented when I log into the system. We're working on that. Custom styles, so kind of like we have tiki or psychedelic or photorealistic or motion blur or 3D animated character. We're also working with brands to build styles for them that are representative of a brand or a sub-brand. Next thing eye on the prize are fine-tuned models. That's a brand giving us their owned assets and us helping train a model on top of ours to, let's just say, hey, every time I type in can, it looks just like the soda can. Every time I type in purple, it's the specific hex code color purple. My logo is a cat with a red stripe down its back. Every time I type in cat into my custom version of this generator, I want it to be a cat with a red stripe down its back without fail. We're working on delivering this via API, white labeling the solution as well for a number of clients. That's really going to come down to us getting access to DALL-E 2.5, which we do not have access to yet, hopefully soon. And we're also building our own models because we have all the data in the world to do this, so why not build our own? Another exciting thing that's coming up next, the same way we work with OpenAI for text-to-image generation, later this year we're announcing text-to-3D model generation. Through our partnership with NVIDIA, we are going to be compensating our contributors in the same way, paying them for the use of their data to train the model, as well as paying them into a royalty fund every time somebody actually licenses a 3D model from our platform. This is exciting because we're probably 8-9 months away from somebody typing in a prompt to get a 3D model, feeding it into a 3D printer. Physical object is out the other side. What used to take hours is now taking literally minutes. Kind of freaky, too. We have a generative AI showcase tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time, where we're going to be announcing some very fun in-painting and editing features, as well as I heard somebody say the C word. Somebody said Canva before. If you like what that system can do, I think you're really going to be blown away what we're going to be announcing tomorrow. See, I'm almost down on time here. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for your attention. I'm around to talk about this stuff. I'm always around to have a brainstorming session. What I will say is, in a world that is quickly changing, the most important thing with anything, with generative AI is be skeptical. Ask questions, press people to give you answers. If somebody shows you a magic trick and they can't tell you how they do the trick or they're unwilling to, all of our data is probably part of the illusion. There's a real cost to free. We're going to continue to compensate artists and respect their intellectual property as we continue to grow and learn about the world. And it's more about dealing with the reality rather than the expectation or what we wish it could be. So thank you. Thank you again for your time. Thanks for letting me be here, too.